everybody. Welcome to the second lesson in the Chapter Leader Academy. My name's Barrett Vogue. I'm the Vice President for Public Relations and Chapter Engagement. And my role here at SVA is to tell our story and to support you all at the chapter level. Now, I said this during the first lesson, and I want to reiterate it here, that the number one predictor of academic success in college is getting connected to a peer network. And Student Veterans of America provides that peer network at the chapter level. So before we go into tonight's curriculum, I just want to talk a little bit more about SVA. Founded in 2008, SVA is a higher education organization that supports you through college that supports today's scholars to become tomorrow's leaders. Now, that happens many different ways through all the programs that we offer, like our annual national conference, which you're going to learn more about tonight, but also through our Leadership Institute, and we're currently accepting applications for that to take place later on in October, and through CLA, our quarterly training for chapter leaders. So before I go into what we're going to cover tonight, I do want to provide a little bit of advice to everybody who's watching now. If you're a vice president or a treasurer, it's fantastic. If you're not one of those things in your chapter, that's okay. It doesn't matter what your title is. As long as you're a member of an SVA chapter, you're a chapter leader. And as long as you're a member of an SVA chapter, or you want to be a member of an SVA chapter, we are here to help you. Send us an email, contact@studentveterans.org. We can help you get connected to a school. We can help you get connected to a chapter, and we can help improve your chapter. Okay, so what are we going to cover in Lesson 2? Tonight we're going to talk about the chapter leadership framework. We're going to go into detail and explain what it means to be a president or a vice president for communication. What does that position look like? What does that entail? And you'll find that that content is actually inspired by our upcoming chapter handbook, which is going to be released in the fall semester. We're also going to go into detail about how to have successful programming on your campus, in your chapter, around your community, and programming is really the heart and soul of every SVA chapter. We're going to talk about NatCon 2018. NatCon is going to be January 4th through 6th, 2018 in San Antonio, Texas. Probably gotten a couple of emails from me about NatCon, but I got to remind you, register for Early Bird today. Early Bird registration for NatCon is $125 for student veterans, but you can actually get $25 off if you provide your LinkedIn profile. Now, at the end of October, registration is going to increase to $200 for student veterans. So definitely take advantage of the Early Bird pricing of $125, and you can save $25 by providing your LinkedIn application. Now, if that sounds like a lot, don't be concerned. Tonight we're going to spend a lot of time teaching you how to pay to attend NatCon. And not only you, but also your colleagues within your chapter. We're going to help you fund your way to NatCon. In addition to funding for NatCon and providing an overview of NatCon, one of our experts here is going to talk to you about fundraising and the important role that it plays in your chapter. We have a very cool guest from Amazon tonight. I don't want to say much more about that, but I think you're going to like what they have to say. So pay attention, and if you miss Lesson 1, not a big deal. All of this training is available online for free on our website. So thank you for joining us. And we're going to pause here for about 30 seconds so Ms. Karen Buck can come talk about the chapter leadership framework.
Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. As Barrett mentioned, my name is Karen Buck and I'm a program associate here at SVA. Been here for about a year and a half now. First started in the outreach department as an AmeriCorps Vista, but even before that, I'm originally from upstate New York. I attended a small school up there, SUNY Plattsburgh. You probably never heard of it. There's about 5,000 people total on the campus. It borders Canada and Vermont, so it gets really cold. During my time in Plattsburgh, I was involved in my sorority, Theta Phi Alpha. Wasn't just your typical sorority girl with Uggs, North Face, and pumpkin spice latte, even though I do have a guilty pleasure for that. I actually held a leadership position in our sorority. I was vice president for 2 semesters, and it was probably one of the most incredible leadership experiences that I've ever had the opportunity to have. Joining a sorority, I never thought that I would be anything. I never considered myself a leader. And then I was elected into that position and really personally grew a lot and developed into part of who I am today. After college, I began working at a law firm, doing some work with a divorce attorney. As you can imagine, not the most fun job in the world. So I quit that after a few months, decided to move back home with my parents, and try to be a stay-at-home dog mom. But a few weeks of that, my parents decided to let me know that a stay-at-home dog mom wasn't a real career, and they needed me to move out of their house. So a friend of mine suggested the AmeriCorps Vista program. So I looked into that, wanted to relocate out of upstate New York, and I saw an opportunity in Washington, D.C. with this organization called Student Veterans of America. I had never heard of that before, but I Googled it. So I was like, okay, veterans, students, leadership, all things I'm pretty familiar with, and they hired me on for the AmeriCorps position, and thankfully after that, they extended an offer to me to become a part of the full-time staff as a program associate, and here I am. So enough about me. Today we're going to dive into your chapter leadership team and what all of that means. So your chapter leadership team. As Mr. Ron Burgundy would say, leadership, it's kind of a big deal. The success of your leadership team is ultimately what determines the success of your chapter. So I just have listed here a couple of leadership team do's. Set goals with your team and track the progress of those goals. If your team doesn't have goals, what's your purpose? If your goals don't work toward your mission, what are you really doing on your campus? You want to make sure to delegate duties to team members as you find appropriate, and utilize your chapter members not in leadership roles for input and feedback. And what I mean by that is those who aren't in the elected leadership roles. Utilize them for their feedback, assistance on projects, anything that you see fit. And with any do comes a don't. Don't try to do everything yourself. You're just going to get overwhelmed and exhausted, and you're going to end up not enjoying your time as a chapter member. Don't forget that you're a student first. As much as we love SVA and SVA chapters, your academic success is more important than your stance in your chapter. If you feel bogged down by your leadership position, it's okay to ask for help. No one's going to fault you for that. And don't be afraid to ask for guidance from other student group leadership teams. Utilize your Student Government Association, which Francesca will touch on later today. Utilize faculty advisors, utilize Greek Life, any campus-based organization that you feel could contribute to the success of your chapter. So Eric's going to launch a poll for us. Do you currently hold a leadership position in your chapter? The reason why I'm asking this is because we're going to dig a little deeper into leadership roles. Barrett mentioned the SVA Chapter Handbook. We're going to release that to you all shortly. And we kind of redefine leadership roles in that handbook. They're laid out slightly differently. So here are the chapter roles, the leadership roles in the chapter handbook. We have our chapter president, vice president of programming, vice president of communications, and vice president of finance. So you see that vice president of programming isn't equal with vice president of communications or finance. And that's just because someone needs to step up if the president isn't able to do something. You always need that acting chapter president available. And the vice president of communications and vice president of finance are equally as important as programming. It's just that one factor that differentiates between them. First, we're going to dive into the chapter president. As the chapter president, you'll be the public face of your chapter and representative of SVA HQ to your campus and your surrounding community. So you literally are the face of SVA in your local campus and community. So here are just some example roles and responsibilities for that position. And I like to use the term example because not every chapter president is going to be the same person. You're not going to fill a cookie cutter chapter president stereotype. Your campuses aren't going to be the same. Your campus culture is going to be different. Your chapter members are going to need different things. So some example roles and responsibilities. Relationship building. This can mean relationship building with community partners, other organizations on your campus faculty, your student government association. It's really important to maintain those relationships and leverage them to your benefit so they can contribute to the success of your chapter. You're going to want to practice open communication, not just with your chapter members and leadership team, but with those relationships that you built as well. You'll be responsible for guiding chapter meetings and managing balance among the leadership team. And I like this quote right down here. Success is measured by what you're capable of, not what your neighbor is doing. If you try to compare yourself to other chapters you may see, like I said earlier, not every campus is going to be the same, so you need to gauge your success based on what you're capable of doing, not by everyone else's standards. Next, we're going to look at the Vice President of Communications. This was previously referred to as Chapter Secretary, but really no one likes the term Chapter Secretary. You don't want to be that person sitting in the back of the classroom during the meeting taking notes. We really feel that Vice President of Communications better represents this role because your actions are what determines your chapter's overall reach. You're responsible for leveraging platforms such as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, anything to publicly get your chapter out there. You are instrumental in shaping the public perception of your chapter. So that brings us into something else we want to talk about. We're going to break really quickly for a selfie break. Chance Browning, our Director of Communications, loves selfies and loves posting them on Twitter to leverage SVA. So really quickly, we encourage you to do this too. Get your phone out, snap a selfie, tweet it with the hashtag SVA Leads. Ready?
Ready.
There we go.
There we go, we got it. Thanks.
You'll see all those goofy guys later, and gals. But thanks for that, and we hope you were able to take your selfie break as well. And we hope to see those tweets with the hashtag SVA Leads. All right, now back to business. Pretty fitting with the Vice President of Finance. In the role of Vice President of Finance, you don't want to be like this character from South Park. He thought he had money, but actually it's gone. You're going to be the one to make strategic decisions about where your funding goes and what you do with it. You're going to want to accurately calculate your expenses and revenues, save for projected expenses, and work with the leadership team to set financial priorities. What are your chapter's priorities? Is a priority going to NatCon, or is a priority hosting a collaborative event with another group on campus? By the way, NatCon is a great way to use your funds. Francesca and Mark will talk about how to get those funding and how to get those funds and how to get to NatCon in just a bit. And really, you want to be very transparent in your financial reporting. You want your chapter to have confidence that you know how to accurately maintain these records. You're trusted with the responsibility of ensuring that your chapter's financial spending aligns with the mission. All right, Vice President of Programming. This is the last chapter leadership role we're going to dig into tonight. And here is a quote from our Director of Programs, Mr. Eric Gage himself. Eric, as you can see, likes to hang things up a lot in this office. And if you follow him on social media, there's probably been a few pictures of him putting up pictures or paintings, just hanging random things on the wall in the office. But I promise you he does more than that. He does a lot more than that. And this quote is a great example of that. Programming is what gives your organization value. By offering quality programming, you give people a reason to join your organization. Other organizations reason to partner with your organization, and people a reason to invest in your mission. You're going to hear more from Eric later this evening about programming, but for now we're going to talk a little about the roles and responsibilities of this individual. So as the Vice President of Programming, you're going to be responsible for planning and overseeing all of the diverse programming that goes on in your chapter and supports the goals. Like I said earlier, you're going to be the one to serve as the acting chapter president whenever the chapter president is unavailable. You'll coordinate all of your chapter-led events. You'll create a schedule for the semester and maybe even the year. And most importantly, you'll ensure that the chapter's programs and events support the mission overall. So lastly, before I sign off, I'm going to leave you with a little bit of wisdom about NatCon 2018. So I can't think of a better way to train your leadership team than to bring them to NatCon 2018. It's SVA's largest program of the year. And if you guys are struggling with funding, if you don't think your chapter can afford it, we can help you. Mark and Francesca will dive into that later, like I said. But we have this really cool program, the Lodging Assistance Program. It will give your chapter one hotel room for 3 nights, Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. And all you have to do is have 3 of your chapter members registered for NatCon, and be sure to have your information ready to upload into this application. All it's asking for is your LinkedIn profile and a resume for all 3 of you. And you just have to be one of the first 76 chapters to register. I think we only have about 70 spots left, so the sooner you get those applications in, the more likely we'll be able to cover your hotel for you. And before I turn this over to Eric, this is one of my favorite quotes from Mr. Desmond Tutu. Do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. I like to compare this to leadership within your chapter. If everyone in your leadership team does their part and does their good on your campus, you're essentially going to be able to leave your legacy and in turn leave your campus better than you found it. So that's me with actually Jared Lyon's dogs. He brought them into the office, and like I said earlier, I love dogs, so I had to snuggle with them. Connect with me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Karen L. Buck. There's my email address. Reach out to me. And follow me on Twitter. I like to tweet about things happening on SVA and retweet some dog photos. So without further ado, I will pass you on to Eric.
Hello, everyone. So like Karen said, my name is Eric Gage, and I'm the Director of Programs here at Student Veterans of America. And like Karen touched on, programs are the hallmark of what a chapter is and what it does. Programs are the things that give your chapter worth. It's anything that you do that adds value. And before I dig into the importance of programming and some recommendations on how to do it, I want to kind of tell you a little bit about myself and how I ended up here in this position, and how my experience as a chapter leader framed my viewpoint of chapter level programming. So those of you that saw my presentation in CLA number 1, this might be a little bit of a review, but I really think it shows how my experience shaped my view of programming. So here's the photo that I'm sure we all have. It's my picture in uniform at pre-deployment training, you know, looking all tough, getting ready to deploy with my unit. So this is Fort Lewis, Washington. In my 12 years as part of the Air National Guard, I deployed and mobilized multiple times. And in the larger gaps between those mobilizations, I chose to go to school. And when I started going to school, I didn't really have a purpose on campus. I'd go to class and wander around and kind of get annoyed by the traditional students. But other than that, didn't really have a place. So then I stumbled upon my SVA chapter. And I can tell you that whole story another time on how I found my chapter, but after finding my chapter, I started to get involved. And a few months later, here I am in Los Angeles, California, competing in a grant competition. And during this grant competition, I got to meet all these individuals. Pictured in this here is many of the forefathers and foremothers of Student Veterans of America. You know, at this point in my life, I didn't realize that Student Veterans of America was more than just my little Vets Club chapter on my college campus. I didn't really realize that SVA existed, and it spread across the country, and there was individuals like me on college campuses everywhere. So here I learned a bunch of things, and I applied those things over a course of time up until graduation when this photo was taken. So in this photo, I'm standing in my chapter's Veterans Center, you know, holding a book that is entitled Preparing Your Campus for Veteran Success, and wearing my chapter's hoodie with its logo on it. And none of these things existed when we got to campus. You know, we spent most of our time fighting for basic services on campus. As you know, the chapter, we advocated for the population. But by the time we left, we accomplished a lot. And I really credit all that to, as a organization, we planned. We had a strategic plan. We executed that plan by providing programming to our members, which kept them engaged, and then gave us the ability to provide things like this vet center, or the fact that we had enough money to buy hoodies and to sell them then to our members. So after graduation, I went off into the working world, and to be frank, it kind of sucked for me. You know, I didn't really have that thing I needed in my life to give me the fulfillment I needed. So when I saw the opportunity to come join the SVA team, I jumped on it. And I applied and was selected to be a program manager here at SVA HQ. This is my first week on the job. So after I started, myself and one of the team members walked down to the White House to get my first professional headshot for the SVA website. Evidently, I didn't feel like smiling that day, or thought that's what you were supposed to do in a professional headshot, but there it is. Still on the SVA website today if you want to go check it out under the About Us tab. But SVA HQ is located in downtown DC, blocks from the Capitol and the White House, and it puts us in a prime location to advocate on your behalf. And I really like this photo because the distance I traveled, not only physically, but in my career progression from this point, from prior to my time in the military, was huge. I had no intentions of going to college before I joined the military and got involved with SVA. And I was successful in college because of SVA. And I may have a degree that says Bachelor's of Science in History, but I like to say I have a degree in student veterans because that's what I did in college. So around the same time this photo was taken, this one was taken, this is my beautiful, wonderful, amazing wife, Holly. She is an amazing woman. I have no idea what she sees in me. As you can see from this photo, I'm a bit of a goofy bastard, and somehow it works. And 2 weeks after this photo was taken, myself and my new wife and our little dog packed everything up we had in a U-Haul and drove it halfway across the country here to DC. And then skip ahead to about a little over a year ago, this little guy came along. This is Truman. As you can see from this picture, he's kind of a goofy guy like his old man. And those of you that have kids will understand this statement. He really changed everything and gave me a really new and different viewpoint of what's important in life, and really gives me a drive on everything I do day to day. So other than those last two photos that just kind of tell you a little bit about me, the others kind of show you how my experience as a chapter leader formed how I look at things here in this role. So, programming. Your chapter strategic plan will lay out the framework for the types of programming that your chapter will offer. So, if you're saying to yourself, hold up, I don't have a strategic plan. Well, guess what? That's okay. All you have to do, like Barrett said, is go check out our Chapter Leadership Academy 1. Like Barrett said, it's on the website. With that, watch that Chapter Leadership Academy, and you'll learn everything you need to know about how to build a strategic plan. And if it's not quite enough, schedule time to meet with Mark and the team in the chapter support, and they'll get you where you need to go to have a quality chapter plan. Programming may cover a broad range of topics, everything from service opportunities to applying for VA benefits. A variety of activities will ensure all members find something that appeals to them. You know, I like to say a chapter's programming should be diverse and regular, and I'll get into what I mean by that here in a second. So, the programming that your chapter provides to its members will differ from that of other chapters and other student organizations on your campus. A clear understanding of your campus culture and your members' wants, needs, and expectations will serve you well. So what do we mean by campus culture? Campus culture is what makes your campus unique. What makes things work there? Who are the power players? How do things function? Who do you need to talk to get stuff done? All of these things play into your campus culture. And a little bit beyond that, what's the community culture? What's the culture of the community that your campus resides in? All of these things will kind of play into what programming will work and not work when you offer it. Solicit ideas and gauge interest from potential activities at your chapter meetings and via other mediums. So talk to your members. Ask them what they want to do with your organization. Figure out what they need, want, and expect from an organization they take part in. And don't just talk about it at your chapter meeting. You know, send out surveys on your chapter's Facebook page, or however it is that you communicate with your chapters or with your chapter members. And I have to point out this picture that you see here. So a little bit ago you heard about our new chapter handbook, and this is the day that I printed off one of the final drafts and put it in this binder to give it to the boss to get it approved. And as you can tell from this photo, I'm very proud. Well, to my left is Mr. Mark McKenna, who you'll see present here in a minute, and obviously from this photo he wasn't impressed or was just really busy. And to the right is Mr. Chance Browning. As you can tell, he was very impressed by getting this done. And I love this picture because Mark, Chance, and I work very closely together, and it kind of shows you the balance of life here at SVA. We work really hard, and we play really hard too. So, types of chapter programming. So I like to talk about chapter programming in 5 different major types. There's the social, there's the professional development, there's the philanthropic, there's the academic, and there's the administrative. So on this slide you'll see 5 different photos, and each of these photos are an example of a type of programming. You have a bowling night, you have a leadership development event, you have a service project, you have an academic seminar, and you have a meeting. All of these photos, just a quick plug here, all these photos were pulled from the Flickr album from last year's Leadership Institute. So like Barrett was saying, this year's Leadership Institute is coming up, and you have until tomorrow to apply for the Leadership Institute. It's going to be an amazing event, so I really encourage you to check it out. You can find it on our website. So what do I mean by social, professional development, philanthropic, academic, and administrative? So here is a few examples. Social, happy hour, family barbecue, bowling night, really anything where the primary purpose of the event is to interact as a group, you know, share a little camaraderie. Professional development, resume workshops, job fairs, mentoring, tuning up your LinkedIn, you know, anything that happens after graduation, you know, that career trajectory that you're hoping and your members are hoping to have. Anything that supports you in those endeavors. Philanthropic, so service projects, Toys for Tots, food drives. You can do anything as small as, you know, a basic volunteer on campus, or something as huge as partnering with an organization like Michigan Continues and cleaning up a park, or partnering with Habitat for Humanity and building somebody a house. We find that a lot of student veterans, even though they've taken off their uniform, really still have that draw to serve. So now, instead of serving our country, it's our jobs to serve our campuses and our communities. So a lot of people find a lot of fulfillment, and they want to see this as part of an organization they take part in. Academic. So this is anything, scholarships, tutoring, anything that gives student veterans assistance in being students, because guess what? We're always student first. And administrative. So the chapter meeting. And I know a lot of you are like, ho hum, chapter meeting, yay. You might think it's the most boring thing you can do as a chapter, but guess what? It's by far the most important, and it is as interesting as you make it. You know, get some pizza, get everybody together, and plan the rest of these activities out. You know, nothing is more important that you can do as an organization than your basic chapter meeting, where you can engage your members and figure out what they want to do, and then plan it. So, things to keep in mind when building your programmatic calendar. So you hear me talk about a programmatic calendar. It's really something as simple as a calendar you write your programs on. And as Karen alluded to earlier, it's the job of the Vice President of Programming to build this calendar and manage it. Does the programming that you're proposing work toward your organization's mission and your chapter plan? Like building your strategic plan, everything works towards your mission. Well, everything you do as an organization should work towards that plan and, in the end, work towards the plan's mission. Can this be done with a partner organization? So you might be thinking, why would I want to share credit for something we're doing with somebody else? Well, when you think about it, why wouldn't you partner with another organization? And don't always partner with the same organization. If you're always partnering with the same people on campus, you're not going to come in contact with new people. So instead of partnering with, for example, the ROTC on campus, like you always do, maybe partner with an organization in Greek life, a fraternity or a sorority, or the 10% Society on your campus, or the Black Student Union. Find other groups to do things with. For example, fraternities and sororities have philanthropic service hours that they have to do each semester. Take advantage of that. Partner with them and let them volunteer with you. The benefits of doing activities with a partner organization are many, but the main ones are it gets your members interacting with their members, and by doing that, their members now can potentially become your members. Also, if they might not want to be part of the Veterans Club, but if they know you guys exist and that you're kind of cool, they're going to refer people to you when they come across a veteran or a dependent or somebody that might be interested in being part of the Veterans Club. So partner with people. And off campus too, if you're doing something in the community, find your Chamber of Commerce or your Optimist Club or whatever it is in your campus or in your community that kind of has a power player. Can this programming be used to attract new members? So if you're not attracting new members, you really need to look at what you're doing, because if you don't have new members coming in and you will have existing members graduating, guess what? You don't have a sustainable organization. So whenever you're doing programming out in the community, think about how you can use this to attract new members. Have a plan for when you do interact with a new person, to give them that elevator pitch on what you got, who you guys are, and what you're up to, and have a plan for who's going to capture that person's information. So even if they aren't able to stick around and hang out with you then, you have an ability to contact them later and get them involved. Does this keep existing members engaged with the organization? So just like every event is an opportunity to bring in new members, you want to make sure you're not neglecting your current members. Figure out what the people that show up to meetings really want to do. Always keep in mind, to keep doing stuff to bring in new members, but don't neglect the people that show up. Can this be used to bring in funds? Just like any public event can be used to bring in new members, any public event can be used to bring in money. Show the community that you interact with that you are awesome. Show them what you're all about. And by doing that, you have the ability to give them a positive impression, so that when the individual that in your organization that does fundraising goes and talks to that people, they already know who you are, and the ask is that much easier. And Mark will get into how to do that here in a few minutes. So before I wrap up, I want to plug a very, very shameless plug. I apologize, but y'all want to hear this. SVA's largest program. SVA presents NatCon 2018, Defining Our Future. It takes place January 4th through 6th in San Antonio, Texas. It gives you the opportunity to interact and learn from more than 2,000 of your peers. And it's the largest gathering of student veterans in the world. You'll have the opportunity to interact with SVA's partners, corporations that are looking to work with you in lining up jobs and internships for you. You have the opportunity to go to breakout sessions and learn things that will aid you as a chapter and as an individual. You have the opportunity to interact with people like us here at SVHQ. And, we're kind of cool, I think. But at the same time, it gives you the opportunity to kind of bounce ideas off us or off of the greater population as a whole, because we're all doing the same thing and we're all here to help you. So, in conclusion, I want to touch on a few little things. In this picture is the SVA programs team. It's myself, Karen, who you met a few seconds ago, and Becky. Becky just left SVA's programs team to go back to grad school, so good for her. But she's still a valued member of the family. Don't overthink things, just get shit done. So I like to say this because a lot of times we overthink our problems. If what you're trying to do aligns to your chapter strategic plan and its mission, just go for it, guys. Don't get hung up on the problems we're dealing with. Just go for it. Here's my contact information, eric.gage@studentveterans.org. Find me on LinkedIn, Eric L. Gage, or follow or check me out on Twitter. I, like Karen, like to tweet about what's going on here at SVA. Evidently, I tweet a lot of pictures of myself hanging stuff up and doing things around the office, but I also tweet about what you guys are doing. I like to share the success we're all having. So find me on Twitter. And I might tweet a few pictures of dogs, but maybe not quite as many as Karen does. But we like to share the success you're all having, so make it easy for us. And if you're enjoying this curriculum and the Chapter Leadership Academy, please share the news with the world with the hashtag SVA Leads. So thanks, everybody. I'll see you at NatCon. Next up is Francesca, who's going to talk about how best to get there.
Good evening, everyone. Hope, or good evening, good afternoon, depending on what time zone that you're in. Everybody here would like to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules. I understand as a fellow student how to budget and manage time, so it's very difficult. So for you to spend this evening with us, we really, truly, greatly appreciate it. As Eric mentioned, I'm Francesca Salazar, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about myself first. In the first photo, I'm a Navy veteran. This picture was taken on my first deployment, very nervous. And I was doing humanitarian effort in Latin America. I'm a linguist by trade and had the great fortune of translating for medical communities with the medical teams during the communities throughout our trip. It was very exciting, and it also showed me a sense of purpose and that I wanted to continue to serve beyond the Navy. So that's where, no pun intended, my journey began. So in the next photo is a picture of me on the top. This is when I was a chapter leader. Now, here's the thing, like most of you, I didn't know my SVA chapter existed or what a Military and Veterans Resource Center was. So I happenstance across this Student Success Center looking for a math tutor because it had been some time since I had taken a math class, and discovered that we had a Military and Veterans Resource Center available to us. And one of the staff members mentioned, hey, you're a Navy veteran, we're looking for people to work there, we're looking for people to be involved in the SVA chapter. So I began getting involved in the chapter, and I'm going to steal my supervisor's line here about winning by a landslide because I was the only person who ran for president. But we had a small but motivated chapter, like many of you, and it kind of springboarded a lot of things for me. As you can tell, I'm sitting here getting to talk to all of you tonight. So this picture here is a picture of me when I was selected for Anne Arundel Community College for the Redefine campaign. I was one of 3 students to represent the entire student body for an entire year for advertising throughout the state of Maryland. It was a huge honor, and I honestly didn't know quite what I was getting myself into, kind of like a lot of the other things here as a chapter president, as a chapter ambassador here, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of great things that can start from things that you don't expect. Below is another example. It's a picture of me and my friend Sarah that I met at NatCon 2016. And we stepped out to use the head for you non-Navy types. That's the restroom. We decided that they were doing a breakout, and Sarah pointed out to me, she said, hey, do you know who that is over there? Do you think he'll give us let us take a photo with them? So yeah, there was a little bit of fangirl going on, I won't lie. If you don't recognize him, that is Medal of Honor winner Kyle White. He was extremely gracious to take in kind and spoke to us a little bit after, even though I know he was super busy that evening and a little bit overwhelmed because other veterans started discovering he was out there. But the important thing that I learned from that lesson is you never know when you're going to step out and step into opportunity. And I think that's something that you have to remember whenever you're going through this process of developing your chapters. You have to step up, you have to be there, and you have to show up. And you have to kind of get in the arena of life. So I decided that after the NatCon high that I had, I was like, wow, I met all these great people, I've made all these friends, I'm still friends with Sarah now. What can I do to bring back to my community? What can I do to bring back to my campus? And what can I do to bring back to my chapter? So, most of us, we have a little bit of an age gap between the traditional students that are there on campus. And I thought to myself, man, I'm like the oldest person in this room other than the professor. But I started engaging and I started learning, and I realized that they were very curious about, our service and what we wanted to do, and they wanted to thank us. And I thought, this is a great opportunity to connect the student veterans with the traditional students. So I thought, well, how can I do this? How can I get us out of that, the Military and Veterans Resource Center and move us into a larger venue? And I thought, I'll start talking to the Student Government Association. So the next picture that you see is a picture of me last year when I was first elected, ironically on my birthday, as the vice president on my campus for SGA. And ironically, I have the great honor of being reelected this past Monday, so I get to do another year. I guess they liked what I did, supposedly. But I think what I finally understood was I wanted to impact the campus on a bigger level and kind of bridge the gap between SVA and SGA. And that's basically what I'm here to talk to you about tonight. But finally, I want to just kind of bring out this last photo, and like Eric mentioned, we work hard, we play hard here at Student Veterans of America. This picture was taken at the Air and Space Museum in DC, and yes, those are missiles behind us. We kind of had a great exhibit location. We had people looking at the missiles, and we're like, hey, do you want to learn about Student Veterans of America? And we got to engage with a lot of great people. But all these people in the picture, this is Mark McKenna, he'll speak after me, and you probably spoke to him during a chapter consultation. We're all chapter leaders. All of us are former chapter leaders. So you never know where life is going to take you, and you just have to kind of go with it. So enough about me. Let's get on to the next slide. So you're maybe sitting here asking, man, I've got homework to do. Why in the world? I've got other things, but why should I build a relationship with the Student Government Association? Well, here's the thing. The SGA, as I kind of mentioned, has a greater campus outreach. So you have a great organization that they are in charge of probably, like at least at Anne Arundel Community College, about 100 organizations. That's a lot of organizations. And, you always talk about, well, how do we do retention and how do we get new members? Well, this is a great way to do it. Because, veterans may not know about SVA, but I guarantee they probably know about their major, like the science club or astronomy club or something like that, or a fraternity or a sorority. They know about these organizations, and if they're all together, then you get to meet new people and you get to introduce yourself and engage. The other thing is the SGA has a direct line of communication to the campus administration. Well, the president, my current president is Jonathan. If I need something and I say, hey, you know what, Jonathan, this organization, we need to get in touch with, Dr. Lindsay, he has that power to do that. And I tell you, that's a really great thing because you can present your concerns, not only your concerns, but the great things that you do. Like, hey, we did a 10K race to help out with, the homelessness or whatever. But it's a positive way to engage and say, you know what, we're here. We want to be a part of we want to be a part of your campus, and we're here to make it better. The other thing is it provides additional funding to student organizations. Many SVA chapters, I know you guys are struggling with funding. Some of you aren't. But you're always about fundraising is one of the things that we hear about chapter consultations. Well, you know what? This is money that's available to you. It's just a matter of the way to present it. And that's one thing that I'm going to help you, how to present it to your SGA. So how can you promote your chapter? Well, the first thing is advertising and publication options. So you see here to the right, this is a wonderful photograph. Eric seems to slip into a lot of our presentations, and he's not hanging something in this picture. So the two gentlemen that are in the picture, at NatCon 2016, I met George and Oscar. They go to Santa Fe Community College, and we happen to be in the same community college section that they have just for us, which is really amazing. So it's not just for 4-year, it's also for 2. But they won the strategic business plan, the first community college to do so. So I snapped this picture. This is not stock. This is actually mine. And this is a wonderful things that you can do when you take the initiative. So if you go to something like NatCon, you're going to want great flyers. You may business cards or something. Your SGA has a budget where they can actually do a certain amount. I'm not saying they're going to print thousands of bulletins for you, but at least it's a start. They're colored, they're professional, they have your campus's logo on there because you want to put your best foot forward, and so does the campus. So it's a great tool to use, and it's absolutely free to you. The other thing is you want to participate in joint sponsored events with your SGA. Don't reinvent the wheel. Let them use their manpower too. Let them use their time and their energy because they want to engage with veterans many a times, but just kind of don't know how to do it. So if you participate in these joint events, they also have a little secret. SGA probably knows the best time that your students are going to be available for the programs. So for example, how many times have you sat and waited and you're at the table waiting, wondering why aren't students coming? Well, it may be because of your timing. SGA tends to have that stuff down because we have to organize it on a larger scale. So that's one good thing that you can do is participation in joint sponsored events. The other thing is, just by proxy, you're going to increase your chapter membership. Why is that? Because you're going to engage. An SVA member, you know, will be out there with the table and like one of the other friends, hey, I didn't know you guys existed. Well, now you've not only engaged with SGA, you've engaged with other organizations on campus where veterans may be, quote unquote, hiding. And finally, you get to do really great things like attend NatCon 2018. Let me tell you, there is a reason why we call it NatCon High, and if any of you have ever been, you understand what I'm saying. It is a great way to network. It's a great way to meet other people, have lasting relationships. It's a really wonderful experience, and I hope that you will attend. How can we connect with our SGA? Well, this is me at Lead 365. This is our form of NatCon. So my life has kind of come full circle. So how you engage with SGA is by attending a general meeting. That may sound simple, but it's actually one of the best things that you can do. You attend a general meeting, you understand how things are run, you basically learn from the others' mistakes, what not to do, how to present, how meetings are run, because there's parliamentary procedure, there's things that we have to encounter and take into, because everybody's busy, so we only have a limited amount of time. You want to make an appointment with either your executive board members or your senators. Your senators are your ambassadors. So maybe you can't make all the meetings, but you can relay information to your senators so they can get it to your executive board if you're unable to do so. Now, this is the most important thing. If there's anything that you remember from this evening, please remember this. Ensure that your constitution and your budget plan are in order. We have a general guideline of what we have for the constitution and the budget plan. It's a guideline. You need to make sure that you follow your campus's policies. Why? Because then you're not an organization if you don't. Then you get your constitution kicked back and you get your budget plan kicked back. That's a huge problem. Why? Because budget plans, if they get kicked back, guess what? Now you got to reschedule a meeting. Time is money. So make sure it's in order. Have your treasurers connect with the treasurers for the SGA and coordinate so that way you can just plan, go, it's seamless, and it's one and done. Finally, I'm going to tell you a little secret that I don't tell, and I feel like I'm rattling on my fellow SGA. So if you're SGA out there, close your ears. I'm just kidding. Create a presentation. I can't tell you how many organizations ask for like thousands of dollars. They go to their events, and that's great. That's what we want them to do, but they don't come back with anything. So if you come back with a presentation and say, hey, look, this is all the great things we did. This is the information that we brought. It shows that you are invested not only in your chapter, you're invested in the community, and you're invested in the campus. And you also bring back a legacy for those who couldn't attend, because many times everybody can't. And that way it gives a sense of inclusion. And finally, this is the last slide. This picture here is very special to me. This is from the first CLA I was a part of. I was more behind the scenes than I am in front of the camera. I was here all of 2 weeks, and as you can tell, I already felt like I was at home, which I already do now. And that's one thing that we want to project here at SVA. We are your resources. We are here because of you, and we are here for you. Mark and I are ongoing resources like Eric and Karen and everybody here. We want to be a part to make sure that you're successful. That's what our job is here for. But you have to step up, and that's why I have this quote here of Daring Greatly. You have to get out there. You have to get in the arena of life. And you're going to get your butt kicked if you go after what you want. However, know that you have a good support system that will pick you up, will dust you off, and will help you. But you got to step in there and take the initiative too. But reach out to us. I thank you again for your time. It was a great pleasure to be here tonight speaking to you. My contact information is here. More than likely, if you call, you'll probably get me or Mark. So I look forward to speaking with you. And again, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you.
Evening, everyone. As some of you probably already know, my name is Mark McKenna, and I am the Director of Chapter Support here at Washington, D.C., SVA National Headquarters. I've already had the pleasure of introducing myself and telling my life story to all of you quite a bit already. So if you want the in-depth version of that, please go ahead and check out CLA lesson number 1. I know you've heard about that quite a bit tonight, but that really focuses on those strategic planning aspects of being a chapter leader that I feel like are really, really important and build a great foundation and a roadmap to success going forward. So please check out CLA lesson number 1. I'm going to breeze through my introduction here, but please let me take this opportunity to thank all of you for being here today. I know that it's probably a very busy time of year for you and your chapter. You probably got midterms coming up, and it's probably no easy task for you to set aside an hour and a half to join us here tonight to help better your chapter. So thank you so much for taking your time this evening, and thank you so much for your leadership on your campus. So with that, like I said, I'm going to breeze through this little bit of an introduction here and show you a little bit, tell you a little bit about myself real quick. I joined the Army in 2006, right out of high school. I was an infantryman stationed up in Fort Lewis, Washington, in the Stryker Brigade up there. And I spent one of those 4 years of those enlistment deployed to Kandahar in Afghanistan. There's a picture of me that the Associated Press took and posted online, which I got in trouble for because I wasn't wearing my gloves. And I wasn't wearing all my personal protective equipment. So my NCOs made some memes and gave me crap for that. Shortly after getting out of the Army, I decided I wanted to, well, actually, I got out of the Army deciding that I wanted to go get back into higher education. I had put my higher education on hold in order to serve for 4 years, and I heard about this wonderful benefit called the Post 9/11 GI Bill. So I decided I was going to leverage that at the University of Arizona in Tucson. And the first couple of years of my college experience were pretty challenging. I felt pretty isolated until I found the SVA chapter on my campus. I found this wonderful group of folks you see here pictured on the right. This is us participating in the Pat Tillman Foundation's run, the Pat Tillman Run up there in Tempe, which is a fantastic event and fantastic organization if you guys never heard of them. But I acted as the SVA chapter vice president while I was there, about 2 years in. because I felt like once I found this community, I wanted to give something back to it. So I decided I was going to run for election there. It was a landslide election. All 6 people who voted in that election, I think, voted for me for vice president. I'm glad there was no write-in candidates besides myself. But I acted as vice president of that chapter for over a year. And I ended up, because I felt like I still owed such a debt of gratitude to SVA on a national level, and I was so passionate about the student veteran mission, what I decided to do was I was going to pack up my car and move out here to Washington, D.C., and get a job in our outreach department as an AmeriCorps Vista and chapter liaison. And I was calling all of you guys and telling you about our programs, our resources, everything we had available to you that we felt like could increase the value of your chapter and make you guys a little bit more agile and effective. But I was fortunate enough to be able to transition from the outreach department, or I transitioned the entire department into the chapter support department. So I had this vision that we had a great opportunity to not only tell you about our programs and resources, but to sit down with you guys, build a relationship, and give you some personalized guidance, not just based on my experience as a chapter leader, because as I've said before to many of you, I was a mediocre chapter leader at best. The reason that I'm pretty damn good at my job now is because I've leveraged the wisdom and experience of all of you, and I want to continue to do that. So please consider setting up a chapter consultation session, as Francesca mentioned earlier. You can do that by reaching out to either of us, contact@studentveterans.org, or always dial that number, and I'll put that up, my contact information up on the screen. So let's get right back into it here. I'm going to be talking to you about fundraising today. This is a piece of a much larger, longer presentation than I give called Fundraising 101. Much like in the previous CLA, I talked about how my Chapter Planning 101 was a much longer version of what I covered there. This is going to be a condensed version, mostly focused on individual donors and how to leverage them. But I'm more than happy to share that entire Fundraising 101 presentation with you. All you'd have to do is reach out and say that you want to leverage that one specifically. So the reason I have this slide up is because I feel like it demonstrates the overall charitable nature of our country, which I'm very proud of. This is established by an organization called Giving USA. So what they basically do is quantify all of the charitable dollars that are spread throughout the United States. And the important thing about this graph that I'd like to, or this chart, I'd like to draw your attention to is the top part where it talks about how individual donor giving has been rising for years. Even where it's been shrinking in the other areas, it's been rising in that category. And it's on track to continue to rise. So we're going to talk today a little bit about how you can leverage that as a chapter. So let's talk about some fundamentals on fundraising. So this might seem a little bit contrite or obvious, but you need money to do stuff as a chapter, right? The reason I include this here is not to be obvious. I know you guys know that you need money to do things, but I want you to think about what if you didn't have a little bit of capital where you could buy pizza for your chapter to have a chapter meeting. Something as simple as that is very important to the overall growth of your chapter. I mean, something as simple as a veteran being hungry might be the difference between them showing up to your chapter meeting and not showing up. That's a big deal. So I include this because when I was a little bit spoiled as a chapter leader, I had quite a nest egg when I arrived in my chapter position and as vice president, and I sort of rested on the laurels of that because I had this nest egg of a couple $1,000s, and I was able to replenish it in a variety of ways, but I wasn't all that focused on fundraising, and I had to really start thinking about what if I didn't have the money just to buy pizza for my chapter meeting, and that would have presented a whole lot of challenges. So let's move on to my next point here. I want you to think of fundraising as a marathon, not as a sprint. I think that the problem that I had with conceptualizing fundraising was that I thought that it meant that I was going to go glad hand some wealthy benefactor and they were going to write me a check if I said just the right words or something in one meeting after 15 minutes. And that I felt a lot of pressure from that, and that's a very unlikely scenario. It's probably very unlikely for you or your chapter too. If that happens to you, if you meet someone wealthy and give them your elevator pitch and they write you a big check, please tell me that story. I want to hear about that. I want to hear the words that you use so I can tell the rest of the chapter or something. But I think it's pretty unlikely that that's going to be what happens. I think what's more likely is you'll meet someone, you'll tell them about your mission, you'll demonstrate your passion, and they will want to build a relationship based upon that. And that's what I encourage you to do. Don't ask for the money right away. Build a relationship and then consider asking for some funds. So let's roll right on through it, and we'll talk about how you can build that relationship. But first, let's talk about getting comfortable asking for financial support. The reason that I bring this up is because, as I said, I wasn't very good at fundraising as a chapter leader for a variety of reasons. But I think one of the reasons was that I had this idea that like asking for money was this dirty thing. It was like made me feel sleazy, it made me feel gross, and I didn't want to focus on that. I wanted to focus on other things. I felt like I'm a servant leader. I'm here to serve. I don't want to talk about money. I feel like it almost sounds like I'm doing this for my own personal gain if I'm trying to pull some Wolf of Wall Street stuff or something. And that's wasn't what the perception I wanted to have of me on my campus as a leader. So I decided that I needed to change my perception there, especially when I came here to SVA National Headquarters. Like I said, my job is to be an expert in all things chapter leadership. Fundraising is one of those big questions that I get all the time from chapters on how to do it better. And I realized I wasn't very good at this as a chapter leader. I need to figure out how to do this better. So what I did was I shifted my perception back to one of those points that I was talking to you about earlier. Now I think about it not as some sleazy, dirty, back alley transaction or someone's palm I have to grease in order to access some funds or something. I think of it as a vital tool for the success of my chapter. It's this thing that I need that is integral to everything that we do. What if I can't provide pizza for my chapter at the chapter meeting? That sort of thing. Something as basic as that I need to provide, that makes it integral to my mission. So next we're going to talk about identifying the needs of potential donors. So the idea here is when you are identifying those potential donors, you're going to want to match their needs to a specific need of your chapter. So you want to be careful about pitching specific programs to folks because you're going to want to know what they're actually passionate about and see if you can tie that into something you're trying to work on as a chapter. So the key to that is doing your research first and identifying those needs. So let's go to our next slide and talk about how you can do that. We're going to talk about all of these things in a little bit more detail as we're going through here. These two questions are two things that I want you to think about when you're thinking about fundraising. I think these are two very important things you need to be asking yourself all the time and kind of updating them as well. How much money do you need to be a successful chapter? If you haven't already created a strategic plan, please do. First of all, once again, CLA lesson number 1, shameless plug. But in that strategic plan, you should have a budget, right? And that budget should outline your very basic costs that you need in order to operate your chapter, right? In order what you need to be successful. You basically sat down and wrote all those line items out and said, these are what I'm going to need to accomplish these goals, objectives, strategies, right? So you're going to use that in order to determine what's the baseline, what's my target, what do I need in order to keep the lights on around here in my chapter in the coming year, and use that to answer this question. If you think that you actually take a second look at it and you're like, wait a minute, I don't know if this is enough money to be successful, update it. That strategic plan is a living document. There's no reason that you have to. Yeah, it's not set in stone. It should be updated, detailed, tracked, changed regularly. So number 2, what are the targets of opportunity in my community? I'm going to breeze through this one. I want you to look at these 6 categories right here. Maybe take a second, write them down. This whole presentation is going to be available for you later on anyways. But I don't want to get into these specific categories individually just yet. But I want you to think about these 6 categories as the different buckets that you can catalog these specific opportunities that your potential donors are going to fit into, most likely going to fit into one of these 6 categories for where you can raise funds. So with that, I'm going to move right along here. I want to make sure I'm leaving plenty of time. Please, everyone, stay on the webinar here. After I'm gone here, we've got a fantastic presentation coming from our partner over at Amazon. Mr. Tim Ryu is going to tell you about some great opportunities for you to actually partner with Amazon for the success of your chapter. So stick around, and I apologize, Tim, if I go a little bit over, but please, all of you, stick around and listen to what Tim has to tell you. So let's talk now about research. So how I want to open this up is to compare this to SVA National's efforts. So here at SVA National HQ, we released earlier this year the National Veterans Education Success Tracker, which is the most comprehensive research ever done on student veterans. And I hope most of you have heard of that. If you haven't, please go to our website and check it out. You're going to find out things in there about student veterans that will blow your mind, even though as student veterans. Fantastic opportunity for you to leverage some of those stats that dispel all kinds of myths and misconceptions about student veterans. But the reason I bring it up is because that research does not sit on a shelf somewhere here at SVA. That research is what we're so proud about it is that we use it and take action with it. And some of you might have heard most recently, the action that we took with that research was Forever GI Bill. That legislation is a direct result and directly informed by our research. And we credit a lot of our success with Forever GI Bill. I don't know if a lot of you heard, but that legislation breezed through Congress faster than any legislation has this year. It was record time. It surprised a lot of folks. It surprised us even a little bit. But we really credit a lot of our success to the fact that we did research on our population that was so successful that we were able to identify a bunch of specific categories where we felt like there were needs for student veterans. And then we decided to create some legislation around that, and now it's been a huge success. So think about fundraising the same way. Research is going to be a key to your success here. You're going to want to talk to your other chapter officers here, and you're going to want to catalog those targets of opportunity. Sit down with them, talk about some local businesses that you might think about leveraging. Talk about those wealthy benefactors in the mansion on the hill or something that you think you heard donated to another cause that's similar to yours, or maybe you can convince them that your mission is noble and they want to support yours as well. Sit down, catalog all those targets of opportunity, put them in those 6 buckets that we had on the slide just before this one here. And then talk about who your chapter members know. So I actually had a very successful fundraiser for my chapter, probably the only one actually, because I leveraged a relationship I already had. So a friend of mine I met in Arabic class, traditional student who was 18 years old, when I met, we were both freshmen, I was 23 when I came in. We were good friends for about 2 years when we were in Arabic class together, and then we lost touch for about a year. But when we met back up, he actually had become the president of his fraternity, and I'd become the vice president of my SVA chapter. And he right away offered to do something together. He held a joint fundraiser on December 7th to memorialize the attacks on Pearl Harbor. And we charged $15, $20 a plate. We all came together as a community, and it was a fantastic fundraiser for us. So that came from a relationship that a guy I decided to say hello to in Arabic class. So take inventory of those relationships that some of your other chapter members might know. They might not even have thought that their friend who's in a fraternity or sorority might be a resource here. Consider those things, take inventory of them, catalog them. And then you're going to want to learn about your potential donors. What makes them tick? What causes have they already supported? Are they willing to support your cause because maybe they've got some veterans in their organization that you can leverage for support? Maybe they've just got a whole lot of school pride. I know that I will be a Wildcat for life, having gone to the University of Arizona. I've got a lot of Wildcat pride. In fact, the University of Arizona reaches out to me now and asks me to give them money already as a graduate. Graduated a few years ago. You can definitely leverage those kind of like history that those folks have with not only the veterans in their organization, but maybe just the pride that they want to support your school. And you're giving them a way to support that in a unique way. You're a unique community. You face some unique challenges, and they can help you face those with some financial support. So let's move on to tips for a successful ask. And what I want to touch on here is, again, we mentioned the strategic plan earlier, right? Why that strategic plan is so important, not just because you need that budget to determine your baseline for what you need in the coming year in terms of funds, but it makes great read-ahead material for that meeting. So now that you've identified and cataloged those targets of opportunity and you've done the research on them, you think you know what's going to be persuasive to them. Now you're ready to decide to actually sit down with them and ask for those funds, right? Actually ask for their support. A great way to do that ahead of time is to send them that business plan and say, hey, look, this is the thought that I put into this. You're demonstrating some real competency. You're building trust, and they're going to have real faith in you to show that you're not just the Wolf of Wall Street glad-handing them and telling them, saying all the right things, but you didn't do the work and put the pen to paper and actually plan it out. What I compare this to is if you go to a bank and with a cupcake in your hand and say, I really want a loan so I can sell more of these. Try this cupcake. Isn't it good? They might tell you that cupcake is delicious, but they're not going to give you any money unless you have a business plan. So think of that the same way when you're fundraising. If you're going to a donor, a potential donor who's going to gift you funds, it's not even a loan. They're going to give you money. You better believe that you better be making a case that you deserve those funds. And you're able to do that as an individual by conveying passion from your mission, but you want to make sure you have an actual document that shows that you thought how they're going to use those funds, just like we ask for you to do when you apply for a chapter grant. So next, make sure you schedule that meeting in a place where you're going to feel comfortable. Don't go to the high-rise office down the road where that potential donor is and sit across from that big intimidating desk if you feel like you're going to be sweating bullets the whole time. That's not going to be beneficial for anyone. They're going to feel bad for you, and they're probably not going to say yes. You want to figure out where is a comfortable environment for the two of you. I'd actually suggest, if you're fortunate enough to have a Veterans Center on your campus, invite your potential donors into the Veterans Center. Give them a tour. Have them attend a chapter meeting. They can see how you conduct business and feel involved already. But then they're gonna know that territory. They're gonna feel comfortable there. And if you sit them down and conduct and ask there for some financial support, they're actually going to be surrounded by the thing that they're supporting. They get to see where their dollars are going everywhere around them. I think that's a powerful statement. So make sure you pick an environment you're comfortable with. That's just a suggestion. Next, let's talk about that research. Two things I want to touch on here. One, the individuals who are going to give to you, they do so because of personal relationships and belief in mission. I don't think it's actually an or, really. I think when you are expressing your passion for your mission to them, and you're showing your competency, you're showing that you really care about this, and that you're going to build a relationship based off that. So do both those things simultaneously. Make sure you're building that relationship through your passion for your mission and for the support that you're trying to leverage. So next, companies give for business reasons, and that's okay. If you're trying to make it, this is all about making it easier to get to yes, right? So when you have individuals that you're making it easy for to get to yes, make it easy for companies to get to yes too. And you can do that just by establishing a 501c3. I have some information on how you can go about that if you're interested. I actually suggest you do what Francesca talked about earlier. Leverage some SGA folks for their 501c3 status if they have one. And so that the company can give to you for business reasons and they can have a tax write-off. There's no shame in the fact that a company might be giving to you for tax reasons. You should have to ask them and to give them that opportunity to give to you. So make sure you practice ahead of time. You better believe that me, Karen, Eric, Barrett, and Francesca all practiced like crazy for this specific presentation. We did multiple run-throughs. We talked through what we thought could be better, and we trimmed it for time in some places. That's what is going to make this the key to success here. I feel like you should be doing the same thing when you're sitting down before you ask that donor. You're going to walk in that room much more confident if you feel like you know the material backwards and forwards, and you're in that neutral environment as well. So make sure you practice ahead of time. So here I want to talk about actually making that ask, and I know I'm a little bit over on my time here, so I'm gonna breeze through this one. But first, I want to acknowledge the contribution of a previous SVA employee who used to work here, Mr. John Granata from Wright State University. He helped me develop a whole bunch of this material. Actually, as I said, I wasn't a great fundraiser, but I'm pretty good at talking about fundraising now because of John. John excelled at fundraising on his campus as a chapter leader so much that we decided to hire him on here at the national office to help us do it on a national level. So before he left the organization, I sat down with him and I said, John, I've identified this was an area I was weak in as a chapter leader. Can you help me out? And he helped me develop this whole presentation. So I just want to extend some heartfelt thanks and gratitude to him. These are a lot of his words, and I'm taking right from his mouth. So I just want to acknowledge him. But the reason that I say that is some of these words that John used to say quite a bit was, The number one reason people do not donate is because they're not asked. So don't sit down, identify and catalog and research and build a relationship and then never ask for the money. Sometimes people don't know that you're actually trying to build a relationship to leverage financial support. They might just think you're trying to raise awareness about what you're doing in the community. They might not realize that they are a potential donor, or that they might be waiting for you to ask. They might be thinking that they can support you in some other way. But make sure that you make it clear to them that you could really use their financial support. So next here we're talking about stewardship. So I'm not going to get into detail on this because this is a big portion of my fundraising 101 presentation. So I'm gonna breeze over this part. But it's important to follow up after the meeting too. Even if you get a no, even if it's a hard no, give them a thank you note. They took the time out of their day to come visit with you, to sit down, and to hear about who you are and what you do. They deserve a thank you for that. And they're going to appreciate that afterwards. And if they say yes, make sure you send them details on how to give you the money. I mean, you're just shaking your hand doesn't mean that you're now have access to those funds. And saying yes, make it easy for them to actually send you the check. Send them the address at least where they send the check. Give them that EIN number so that they know the 501c3 to put the funds through. Make sure you're doing those follow-up details, otherwise you're never going to see that money. So with that, like I said, I'm over on my time now. Apologies again, Tim. But I'm going to close this out with the same quote that I actually closed out CLA Lesson 1. And I thought about this because I feel like this is even more applicable here on to this specific topic of fundraising. So I'm gonna relate that to this right now. Winston Churchill said that success is not final, failure is not fatal, it's the courage to continue that counts. And the reason I like this quote is because if you have some initial success at fundraising, you actually get a check, those individuals are not going to give to you again if they never hear from you again. It's important to maintain that relationship and thank them and actually show them where their dollars are going. Success is not final, and failure is not fatal. The reason I bring this up is because a no today does not mean a no tomorrow. So even if that meeting goes poorly, or even if they tell you no at the end of the meeting after you ask, they just might have some sort of obstacle preventing them from giving to you right now. Maybe they're waiting for the fiscal year to turn over. They don't have enough charitable dollars in their bank account right now, and they can't give to you just yet. So maybe they'll give to you later, or maybe, I mean, this is a small world that these folks operate in. Often these folks know each other. Maybe if this organization can't help you right now, or they feel like it's not exactly in their wheelhouse, they'll probably know someone who can. And if they believe in your mission and you convey it with enough passion and purpose, they are going to want to connect you with those folks that they know so that they can support you. And last is that it's the courage to continue that counts. And the reason that I include this is because I think it's important to remember in all aspects of chapter leadership. I see it time and time again, and what separates the good chapters from the great ones is this point right here, the courage to continue. You are going to experience success, and you should not rest on the laurels of that success. You're going to experience failure. You're going to fall flat on your face sometimes, and that's okay. Make sure that you are persevering, you're having some grit and determination here. If you build it, they will come. I can promise you that. And I'm here to help you do that. And so let me help you do that. Email me at mark.mckenna@studentveterans.org. Connect with me on LinkedIn. And then you can always call us here at SVA National Headquarters. Dial 2 for chapter support. If I don't get to your call right away, I apologize. Please leave me a voicemail. I promise I'll get back to you. You can always reach us at contact@studentveterans.org. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that once again. Thank you for your leadership. And please give me the opportunity to help you in your chapter. I want to strengthen and help you build that chapter. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my friend Tim over at Amazon. He is going to tell you about a fantastic opportunity you can leverage with Amazon to help build and strengthen your chapter as well. So apologies again, Tim, for going over our time here, but with that, I'll turn it over to him.
Hey everyone, hopefully you can hear me now. Let me just make sure I could see. Perfect. Cool. All right, I think everyone can see me. Let me just make sure. All right. All right. I believe everyone could hear me okay and everyone could see me okay. All right, perfect. Anyway, thank you for the introduction, Mark, and thanks again for letting me be here to talk to your student veteran, leadership. Or the leaders. Anyway, my name is Tim Ryu. I work at Amazon, obviously, if you can't tell by the shirt. I am a student veteran programs coordinator, so I manage the student veteran program that we here at Amazon. I basically am a liaison between the student veterans, but I do fall under university operations, which is both the realm that you guys currently live in. This is my contact information, so if you guys have like a way to screenshot, I will show it again later. And my name's pretty easy to find, so I'm not too worried that you're not going to remember. But here's my email, here's my direct phone number. Give me a call anytime, and I'd love to chat in terms of what I could do in support to grow your community as well as sustain your community. Right? All right. So let's move on. And so, okay. So a little bit about me. I was in the Marine Corps for 7 years. I've done a few tours. I've been to Afghanistan, I've been to Kuwait. The Marine Corps has graciously sent me to Europe as well a bunch of times. And so I got to do my thing for 7 years. I went there, did that. I really enjoyed it. But I decided, I'm going to try, go to college, maybe change things around and see if I could, succeed on the other side, right? It's like been there, done that kind of thing. And so what I do now is basically I go through, Amazon hired me specifically to touch upon all the different universities I can and try to be like a middle piece for everybody. And also, as you can see on the bottom left, there's my small dog right there. Actually, we here at Amazon Corporate, we bring our dogs. Kyle, come here. Come here, buddy. Come on, come here. Yeah, come here. Okay, okay. So I don't know if you can see. Can you see? Say hi. Woof. Say hi. Hi. Come on. No? Okay. Anyway, so I bring my dog every day to work. She's yeah, she's a ferocious 10-pound animal that I just got to make sure that nobody else is very threatened by. But I really enjoy it here. My Amazon story is a little bit interesting in the sense that basically I wanted to join Amazon when I was in Afghanistan, actually. So when I was in Afghanistan, and as many of you guys who probably relate to, the PX and the commissaries don't really have much to offer. And so basically, back then, in 2010, I was looking for, or 2011, excuse me, I was looking for different ways that I could, like an e-commerce based company that could deliver things. So I looked to Target, I looked to Walmart, I looked to Craigslist, eBay, whatever. And it's just whenever you put in the APO AE address, they just lose their minds. They have no idea how to deliver to that address, even though it's within the states. And so I just looked and I found Amazon. And Amazon, surprisingly, you could start. I started to deliver things through Amazon to an APO address. So at first, the first thing I bought was like an M9 holster for my Sappy plate carrier because it was like actually mission critical. Because the GI ones obviously are not very good. And so I started buying these different aspects, and I bought bar of soap, lotion, whatever the PXs didn't have. And so at first, it became this thing where I would go and buy things because it was mission critical. And then eventually, I started buying I bought the 5-pound bag of gummy bears. I bought like 18 packets of Oreos, I think. The triple double. I don't know if anyone knows that is. It was a promotional thing. And so I started to buy these different things, and it became these luxury items that I would help to either build morale for my Marines, or it was like a check, like a check in the box. Like at least Marine. I don't know how the rest of your deployments were, but the Marine Corps deployments are 24/7, 12 on, 12 off, the entire time you're overseas. And so things get really monotonous. Things become exactly the same every single day, day in, day out, same chow hall food, whatever. And this box with a smile on the side became this like markers that I could hit. So when I was overseas for like an entire year, when I get one on a Friday because I staggered it, they'd be like, hey, there's 10 more to go, 9 more to go, 8 more to go, because I would order every 2-3 weeks. And so it became this like marker that I would want to just fulfill, and that kept me sane. And so when I came back to America and back to Washington State, and I went to UW, so go Huskies, and I was looking for employment, I found out that Amazon was has a really large presence in Seattle. I probably should have known that, but maybe I was just oblivious to that. And so I wanted to give back to the company that gave me so much. And so now I'm in this in this space where I get to help those that are in your position that to come onto this side, because Amazon has we have a lot of data to show that student veterans or veterans as a whole do really well here. It's mainly because of the nature of the beast. We really pride ourselves that our culture here is very different, because it really is. It's extremely fast paced. It is sometimes high stressful, but the payoff is always worth it. And so veterans are generally always put in that predicament starting from day one. I'm sure boot camp or basic training wasn't a walk in the park, at least usually. And so when you're put in that kind of stressful environment and you constantly want to push to succeed, it brings out a really good culture for Amazon that we could really tap into. And so that's the reason why Amazon as a whole, like a lot of companies like Microsoft, Boeing, us, Nintendo, whoever, basically have like a military initiative saying that they're going to hire this many veterans, or this is how much we're funding to hire veterans. But the thing is, when it gets to the actual execution and pulling the trigger, Amazon has done so, and we've been doing so for about a year, a little bit, almost 2 years, while the other corporations are still kind of in the books. Like it's a good publicity stunt, but there's no execution afterwards. And so that's the piece that really sets us apart. And so when Amazon say we're trying to hire thousands of veterans, it's actually true. Otherwise, they wouldn't have hired me to fill this role of recruiting you guys. And so basically, I want to go over in terms of what I have to provide, what my space looks like, what I could do for you guys. So this is my LinkedIn webpage or LinkedIn portal. My name is Tim Ryu once again. Very easy to remember. I'm the only one that works at Amazon, so my alias is exactly that too, just Tim Ryu at Amazon.com. And so just look me up on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn about 6 to 8 hours every single day, sometimes even 10, because this is the space that basically this is my way to talk to you guys. And most I don't know, some of you actually might have already been reached out by me. I've been sourcing on LinkedIn quite heavily for the last few weeks, so don't be surprised if you got something from me. Please don't be harsh. I've gotten a lot of feedback on LinkedIn. Like there's a lot of trolls on there. There's a lot of haters. It's a tough world. But anyway, on LinkedIn, so please reach out to me. And the reason why I'm showing you this is because one of the things I want to do, and so Great Call is my direct manager. He was the guy that basically implemented the veteran button on LinkedIn. So he was on LinkedIn. He was a huge advocate when it gets to hiring veterans and seeing that there's actually a talent pool for veterans for a professional, a networking platform like LinkedIn. And so he was the one that came up with all the initiatives. Like if you look up Great Call on LinkedIn, you'll see that he's kind of a big deal. And so when he came to Amazon, essentially he was like, hey, people know me on LinkedIn, so if you reach out to the student veterans and chapter leaders, and if you could get like a photo, and so this is where like I want to send you guys stuff. Like reach out to me. I can send you these shirts. I can send you swag items. I can send you promotional items. Amazon spends a lot of money on publicity stuff, and so I have it readily available. I have thousands of things that I could just send to wherever. And so this is where I send it to you guys. You put on the shirts. You take a picture with like what I did for University of Maryland, that's, I guess they're the Terps. And so if something iconic of your university, you send that picture back to me saying, hey, Tim, this is so-and-so, I'm trying to grow the population here. I then post it on social media, or I mean on LinkedIn or even on Facebook, and tag you guys, tag Greg, and I'm like, hey, you go to Syracuse or USC, go see my buddy here, if you're a student veteran, right? And so this works in two ways. One, it allows your, like if people didn't know you existed, it kind of puts you on the radar, and also it allows your community to grow. And for me, it's a higher quality of candidates, right? Just because the population gets bigger. And so this is where the push and pull relationship of where I really want to help you guys, and hopefully where we could get jobs for your student veterans. My next point to this is basically, so at the end of the day, when you guys are done with your terms here and you're just doing, you're right by your community, you guys are going to need jobs. And so this is where I think it'd be very, very beneficial for you guys to build a relations with somebody like myself, who I have the roles, to basically to offer. And so please utilize me as a single point of contact. And so, the roles that I directly influence are operational, which I'll go over in a minute, to my portal right here, which is amazon.jobs/student-vets. This is a portal that I directly have influence over. These list all the roles that I, control. But however, if you're interested in AWS or tech or software engineering, development, sales, marketing, PR, whatever, right, that Amazon has to offer, which is a lot now, especially with this, now with Whole Foods. And so if you have interest in Amazon other than operational, I'm still the guy to talk to, because I know all the military recruiters. I know I have my hands in a lot of different realms. And so this is where, please utilize me as a triage piece that I could just, plug in to whoever you need to talk to. You want to talk to AWS? Nick Curry is a military recruiter over there. You want to do PR? I have Amaris Batista. And so there's all these different components that I could triage you into, and this is exactly what I'm hoping from you guys at the leadership level. So you and I talk, your student veterans will talk to you in the sense that, like, hey, how do I end up at a company like Amazon or Microsoft or wherever? And this is where, you could really give them a strong guidance piece, and as well as for yourselves when you graduate eventually. And so I just want to take a quick second to show you the portal that I control. So this is exactly where I was. This is actually me on the right at the University of Washington, so go Huskies. These are the 4 roles: the area manager, senior HRA, safety specialist, intern. And so our internships are for juniors and seniors, or juniors and seniors, or in between, and these are paid, by the way. And so, like, if you don't, I know how it works. You don't go to school, you don't get paid by the GI Bill. So during that time, it would behoove you to really look into internships, not only at Amazon, but everywhere else, right? And it goes over the role a little bit. It kind of breezes through. But when you actually start to apply, which you could just apply either here on the apply now, or just go to the actual, area manager, for example. When you press it, essentially it takes you and it goes over the full basic requirements as well as the preferred requirements. So I would highly encourage you to go into this portal just to see what Amazon has to offer on the student veteran level. But if that doesn't interest you, there's always ways to, like, you go to the university recruiting portal, which has a little bit more jobs. And also that portal is for those that are non-veterans, so for the spouses, for example. And if you want to talk hourly roles while you're in school right now, that's another topic that we definitely talk to too. As you probably know or may not know, we have facilities everywhere, every single state, almost every single state, and they're actually kind of unmarked, so you don't really know that they're Amazon unless they basically, kind of put it out there. And so what I mean by that is that they're usually 24-hour, facilities. And so if you take morning classes, we have nighttime roles available. And these are, part-time roles that it's just extra income for you in case the GI Bill is not enough. And vice versa. If you take night classes, we have morning roles, obviously. And so that's where, we should really talk on the side. All right. So, oops, went too much. Okay. So this is a portal. Please check it out. It's pretty easy, but if you don't know, at least you know my name. You can ask me what the portal is, and I could just send it to you. All right. So this is the couple of lasting points that I really want to make before I give it back to the SVA. I am the single point of contact for student veterans at Amazon. So reach out to me anytime. Let's collaborate. Let's try to do whatever. I'm open to, like, setting up a webinar series, or even something like this where you get your body of student veterans in a room and, like, hey, let's talk to Amazon and let's just berate them with questions, right? Like, hey, what is it like to work there? Let's not talk about money, but how much you make, or whatever the case may be, so that essentially I could give you as much clarity as I can in our roles here, just so that it's just passing off knowledge. It's just giving you the opportunity that maybe they couldn't have had before. I'm open to trying to set up mock interview sessions. I am traveling every single month to different regions, and so who knows, I might be in your neck of the woods. I could swing on by, do like a quick mock interview or resume building session where, hey, this is what the ideal Amazon perfect resume looks like. But at the end of the day, even if that's not the case, where the resume that you built, even if it doesn't work for Amazon, it's going to work everywhere else too, because major corporations follow a certain suit. And so I would love to give you a little bit of that information in terms of like the do's and don'ts. Once again, the SVA presidents, vice presidents, treasurers, the chapter leaders, we want you too. You guys are the servant leaders, right? You guys are the ones that are going above and beyond, what you need to do so that you could do justice by your community. And so those are exactly the kind of people that we want to recruit for. And so if you ever considered Amazon or want to consider Amazon and want to talk, feel free. Like, that's what I'm here for, right? And so in terms of like some of the things that I would like to go into in detail during our one-on-ones or when I talk to your student body, is like our interviewing session or our interviewing like methods, which is slightly different from the other corporations. And a lot of corporations actually follow this particular one. It's called the STAR method, which stands for situation, task, action, and result. And so this is where basically when an interviewer asks you like, tell me about a time when you had a disagreement with your manager. You have to state the situation on what it is, the task at hand, the action that you took, and the result that came out of it. And this is a very structured way to interview somebody. And I know certain other corporations started following it, but we like live by that method. And also, at least in the Marine Corps, I know this is true, but I believe that other branches have leadership principles as well. We have our own Amazon leadership principles. There's 14 of them. I would highly encourage you to look them up, Amazon leadership principles. We don't really keep it a secret. It's on public and people know what it is, like, have backbone or frugality and things of that nature. And so those are like the ways where when we ask you a question and you could draw from some of those leadership principles, then it's like, okay, this person knows our culture, right? And also, once again, I just want to just go back to the fact that the reason why Amazon is targeting veterans as a whole is because the culture here is definitely fast-paced, and veterans thrive here. Like I'm a veteran, my direct manager is a veteran, his director is a veteran. Well, his director is a Marine, Marine, and her partner, I guess her director, senior director, is a Navy submariner. There's so many veterans in Amazon corporate, as well as in operations. There's even more, and so it just veterans are really well here. There's a lot of data to show, and so that's the piece that I'm trying to get across to you guys, that if you want opportunities, this is where I'm it. You want opportunities? I'm it. And so that's the piece that I just want to leave off at. All right. So once again, this is my information right here. Tim Ryu. Tim, and Ryu like the Street Fighter. I'm the only one on LinkedIn, at least that work at Amazon anyway. And so please reach out to me. I would love to chat and see what I could do to get more involvement out of your, group, or out of, you guys, or whatever I could do to, ensure that I'm giving you all the right pieces. I really want to thank the SVA for allowing me to do this. You guys are the population that I really, really want to talk to. And also, I really want to thank Eric for giving me this opportunity in terms of make sure that everything was done correctly. And Mark, thanks. You kind of, just ran a little bit over time, but hey, all your information that you're saying is just super valuable. So I doesn't matter. Anyway, thanks again. I'm always open to chat. I wouldn't be surprised if you hear from me on LinkedIn, but hey, if you reach out to me, build relations before, it's a lot better, right? Anyway, I will turn it back over to SVA. Thanks again, and hopefully I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, thanks, Tim. We really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us tonight, and we're very excited about our partnership with our friends over at Amazon. So to wrap up tonight's CLA, we apologize for going a little over the scheduled time. We know your time is valuable, and we really appreciate you taking the time to log into this Chapter Leader Academy and learn a few things. Please, like I said, and Mark said, and we've all said, if you need anything, reach out to us. Check out the website, studentveterans.org, and hit us up at contact@studentveterans. We're here to help you guys out. Reach out to any of the individuals who led a session today, and if you need any support, let us know. We value your input on how this program is run. Chapter Leadership Academy is your program. Let us know what you think. Let us know how we can do it better. And please, if you're talking about this program or anything leadership related as a student veteran, please use the hashtag SVA Leads. All right, thanks everybody, and have a great night.